Hey you guys, welcome back to our channel, the number one place for people who love design, art and all things creative. You are watching Dantier and Balogh's channel, my name is Laszlo, and in today's studio vlog you get to peek behind the scenes to see what an ideal workday in the life of a graphic designer looks and feels like. Lucky you! There are 3 main projects on the agenda today that I need to get on with. We need to design some business cards for a personal trainer, then we'll move on to designing a thank you card for an Etsy shop, and if things go well we get to work a little bit on this very video that you are watching right now. A bit of script writing, maybe editing some of this footage that I'm recording, that kind of thing, okay? By watching this you'll get to learn a thing or two about designing for print, as that's the main job of the day, as well as giving you some honest insights into what's it like to really work as a graphic designer on some real briefs with some real clients, okay? Let's do it. Okay, so it's about 11 o'clock in the morning, bit of a late start to this day, but I had to have some last minute talks with the guy who I'm designing these business cards for, yep. Now this guy happens to be my brother, who has started working as a personal fitness trainer earlier this year, and now he's in need of some graphic design bits and bobs, namely a business card that I have promised that I'm going to put together for him, yep. When you're doing this kind of work, you have to have some raw design assets prepared before you jump into it. In this case, what I needed was his logo, his brand colors, the fonts that he likes to use, and of course all the copy, all the text that's actually going to be on the card, yeah? Now because this client per se is literally my own brother, the chain of communication is very direct, it's quite efficient and quick. And in terms of branding, I basically have full control, as it was actually me who has designed his logo earlier this year and the brand colors and all that stuff. Still, I wanted to give you this little list, just so you know how to start a project like this. Now first of all, I thought we should start with explaining to you how to prepare a design file for this kind of projects. I'm going to use Adobe Illustrator here, but you can use any other piece of software which has been developed for print design, okay? Okay, so here I have Adobe Illustrator open, so I'm just going to click Create New to create a new document. And here we need to set these up for print, yeah? So instead of pixels, we're going to use millimeters. Now here in the UK, the standard business card is 85 millimeters wide and 55 millimeters tall, yeah? If you're in the US, what you need to do is set this up for inches. And there the sizing, the average business card size is a little bit different. It's basically 3.5 inches wide and 2 inches tall. So obviously all this sizing is going to heavily depend on where you are in the world. Now if you're ever in doubt in terms of sizing, what I would say is just check online, go to the source, okay? Chances are your client is planning to print these business cards out using one of those online print-on-demand sites, like Move or Vistaprint or that sort of thing. In which case you should just open up those websites and check yourself what sizing they require, yeah? Now we're going to need 2 artboards. So I'm just going to pump this up to 2 because we're going to design the back as well as the front side of the card, yeah? Bleed, I'm going to set up a couple millimeters, somewhere between 3 or maybe even 5, which is standard practice when it comes to print design. And if you don't know what bleed is, it's effectively just a way to make sure that you overlay the design a little bit instead of just relying on these sizes. Because if your chosen printer doesn't do precision cutting, then having a bleed could actually help you to make sure that all the design work is included within your card, okay? Nothing gets cut off and nothing looks awkward, yeah? The color mode here, we have to switch to CMYK, which is the standard color mode for printing. And here, the PPI, which is set to 72, it needs to be at least 300 PPI, which is there to make sure that your design work is going to look great in print. It's going to be as sharp as possible, yeah? Now let's hit create, and here we are. This is basically our card, and we have a nice little bleed as well, which we're going to make sure to use in terms of overlaying things a little bit, just to make sure that when our work gets cut out nicely, nothing gets lost, yeah? Now once you're ready to go, what I like to do is pull in all these raw design assets that we mentioned earlier into this one design file. So we get to start playing around and building some layouts, yeah? And I think I'm going to speed this part up a little bit just so I don't bore you guys to death. And while I'm designing, let's have a little bit of a chat about business cards and print design in general, okay? Okay, so while I'm working my way through this brief, let's start with maybe the most important question regarding business cards and, well, printed brand collateral in general. I mean, are they still relevant? Do we need them in today's overly digitalized, social media savvy brand landscape? Now this is quite a complex question which could be a whole video topic in itself, but to boil it down for you, I think the importance of printing for your brand depends on who you are, what you are selling and who you are selling to. Certain brands moved on to fully digital business models and focus heavily on online advertising in order to stay relevant and to come across as, forward thinking, which is all well and good. But in my experience, there are still lots of brands out there which can and should utilize these more traditional forms of networking and building brand awareness, yeah? Here in our case, for example, while a modern personal training brand should understand the importance of a strong online presence, of course, at the same time, I think it cannot avoid the fact that physical fitness is an industry where a person-to-person connection is not only welcomed, but it's basically required, yeah? I don't know about you, but when I'm exercising, my mind needs to be fully there, you know what I mean? The gym is typically a place where people don't take their smartphones with them, or even if they do, they don't want to be on them, right? You are there to be fully there in your physical self. And the last thing you want to do is think about the metaverse, AR marketing, or the latest social media platforms. So as a trainer, having a few of these cards with you is probably a better idea than trying to exchange Instagram handles with people while their hands are, they're full of dumbbells and stuff. You see what I mean? Austin Kleon said this thing in his book about how oftentimes the most boring technologies are the ones that stand the test of time. Now he was talking about how sending emails to people is still the best way to contact them online, as opposed to using the latest and greatest social media platforms, simply because we all have email addresses, we all check them, and we don't tend to change email addresses very often, do we? So there is very little room for things getting lost or misinterpreted, right? Now I believe this theory stands for marketing as well, to some extent. You might think that it's mighty clever to incorporate, Web3 based design solutions into your marketing strategy. And you know what, in certain cases, yes, of course it is. But at the same time, certain situations and certain people will just call for simplicity, yeah? And what is more simple than a straightforward, no-nonsense business card? In the meantime, I started finalizing things here. I got 2 business card layouts, which I think are good enough to present to our client. These are very similar arrangements, except one of them is a portrait layout, while the other is more of a classic landscape view business card. So what I'm going to do now is put these 2 on a deck that I'm going to save out and send to him, so he can choose which one he likes better. If you're planning to do the same with your design project, one thing that you shouldn't forget is change the color mode back to RGB for these presentation slides and pages. As you might remember, we set the original file up to CMYK mode, which will not export very well into digital formats as a JPEG. Yeah? Now looking at the time, it took me a little under 2 hours to get to this point. So now what I need to do is basically send these card designs off to the client. And while we wait for feedback, after grabbing some lunch, I'm going to start working on our second project for the day, which is the thank you card for an Etsy shop. So now I'm gonna save everything out and I'm going to take about an hour-long break here for lunch, which for you, unless you got YouTube Premium, is going to manifest itself in a little bit of an ad break, which I'm very, very sorry about.
1 hour later.
Afternoon. So now, for our second project of the day, let me just quickly explain what we are going to do. If you have been part of our creative crew back then, you might remember that about a year ago I have designed this very illustrative logo for a client who named her business Prismatic Postage. If you haven't been following us for that long, this is basically a brand making these crazy colorful synthetic facial hair pieces, beards and mustaches, celebrating color, freedom, fantasy and the performing arts. Now the brand's owner contacted me a couple months ago, asking if we could take this really funky, very illustrative design style that we came up with for the logo and draw up a couple more of these character illustrations as part of a more extensive brand package, which we could put onto business cards and thank you cards and that sort of thing, yeah? Now today what I want to do is start working on the back of the thank you card. We can start formatting things because I got the right dimensions and I got all the text, all the copy that the client wants to print onto the back of the card. So once again I'm going to go back to Illustrator, I'm going to create a new file and come up with a simple and snappy layout for the back of the card, okay? I gotta tell you, working with this brand is always a great experience for me because it's one of those smooth collaborations where the client and me, we tend to agree on most creative decisions. We seem to have similar tastes and opinions, which always helps when you are working on a highly illustrative project like this one. To be completely honest with you, most of the work for this design package is already done. I drew up 3 different characters, similar to the ones on the logo, which I'm gonna have to show you some other time, as I promised the brand's owner that I'm not gonna publish them online before we wrap up the whole project. She was okay with me doing this video about the back though. We are just here to play with writing for the most part really, so again, let me speed some of this up. I'm sure you don't have all day. See, thank you cards are yet another great use of printed marketing, which makes sense to use in certain cases. If you sell physical products, even if the transaction itself happens online, having one of these little cards included in the product package just shows that you care about your customer's experience. It comes across as a really nice touch, especially with a brand like this one, which is selling handmade goods. These are all hand-woven pieces by the way, which is pretty amazing if you think about it. It is basically a simple thank you letter to the customer, also instructing them on how to take care of the product. On the top, the client asked me to leave a little bit of empty space, where she could handwrite each of her customers' names. Which is yet another fantastic way to create that connection, which, let's be honest, could not really be achieved via digital marketing tools and solutions. I'm basically going to again put together a slide of my ideas so she will be able to choose a design direction. On the far left, I filled everything in, so she would literally just need to put the customers' names on top. On this middle one, I switched her brand fonts to script fonts here and there to imitate handwriting. And on the far right one, I just left all of these personalizing bits, so she could write and sign these herself, by hand. Okay, so these are done, I just need to send them off to her, and in the meantime my brother came back to me about his business cards. The feedback is he basically likes the work, which is good. In fact, he likes both of the designs that I have presented to him, so now he's asking me which one should he go for. Now this is a good teachable moment for young designers if you're watching. Whenever you're presenting a couple different design solutions in order to solve the client's problem, you will think that they will choose the one they like the most. But sometimes the ball gets kicked back at you and they will ask which one do you think is the best option. Now first of all, if that happens to you, congratulations, that's a very desirable place to be in. They like all the work, so yay. But ideally, at all times, you should be prepared for this question with an answer. Please don't ever answer these questions with things like, oh, I don't know, they're both good, they're all great solutions. We know that they're all great solutions, that's why you put them together. And even if you like all the work equally, you should never say that really, because that can easily make you come across like you don't really know what you're doing. You know, it doesn't show confidence, does it? Always remember that in a design project, you are there not just to provide design work, but also design opinions. Yes, of course, there are instances when both options are good options. Here, for example, it doesn't make a crazy difference if you're going with the portrait or the landscape mode of this card. But still, always be prepared to provide an answer. Which one is your favorite and why? In this case, I told him that I would go with the portrait mode because I think it reads a little better. The layout feels a bit more spacious on this one. Besides, I think in this day and age, people are very much accustomed to reading, decoding and watching information in this format, yeah? Scrolling basically have become second nature, we even watch videos in portrait mode now. So this card is effectively mimics the action of looking at stuff on a phone screen, thus making the business card feel a bit more comfortable, while also being very modern, yeah? You see what I mean? That's a great answer, I think. So that's what I'm gonna go back to him with, upon which hopefully we will get to wrap this project up. But of course we will need to check all the settings once again before we export all our files. The sizes, ratios, color modes and all that. Oh, and of course check all the information and look for typos. Super important when things are going off for printing, yeah? Now at this point it's about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The other project, the thank you cards, I haven't heard back from the client yet, so that's in the air. So I think as a last thing of the day, what I'm going to start doing now is gather all this footage that I'm recording here, start putting it together, maybe start editing it a little bit, and then basically call it a day, okay? Hey you guys, welcome back to our channel, the #1 place for... And and draw up a couple more of these character illustrations for a more... and draw up a couple more of these funky color... and draw up a couple more of these Guys, I hope you enjoyed this little day in my life type studio vlog video. My hope is that it sheds some honest light onto what it is really like to work for yourself as a graphic designer. I also feel like I must state that not all days are like this. Days when you get to spend most of your time designing are ideal, but actually quite rare. They don't always happen. Some days you have to focus on other things like admin duties, sorting your invoices, updating your website, answering emails, have a Zoom meeting or two. Other days you have to market yourself, looking for new clients, so honestly, it took some time to orchestrate today, where I was able to book both of these print design projects into my schedule. I don't mean to dishearten you here, but yeah, it's just something I think you should know. Our regular creative crew members know that we talk about not just graphic design and brand illustration in this channel, but Jacqueline, my partner's content, focuses on interior design and architecture, and everything else overlapping all these cool things. So if any of that sounds interesting, please feel free to follow us along. We also recently started a Patreon account, which is still, well, I must say, still very much of a work in progress with the tier lists and all that, but you know, if you enjoy our content and you want us to keep going, we would greatly appreciate it if you check that out. Feel free to leave a like to help us reach even more people with this channel, and I hope to see you next time with some other cool creative stuff, okay? Bye now!